With the release of Amnesia the Bunker on May 23rd, horror and survival game enthusiasts should get ready to be immersed in a terrifying World War I bunker experience. Developed by Frictional Games, the masters of survival horror who brought us critically acclaimed classics like Penumbra Overture, Amnesia the Dark Descent and Soma, it's needless to say that with such an impressive game release history, the expectations for the newest project are high. Let's first cover the very basics of the game. Firstly, it's worth mentioning that the bunker is not a sequel to the previous Amnesia games, but a standalone game with its own storyline and characters. Therefore, it's not necessary to play the previous games. In Amnesia the Bunker, you'll take on the role of Henry Clement, a French soldier stuck in a World War I bunker with limited resources. Your only defense is a revolver. A noisy dynamo flashlight, and scattered crafting items, which you'll need to use to eventually fend off the lurking monster. We'll take a closer but spoiler-free look at this monster later, as this time, it's actually scary and terrifying. And I'm not just saying that for the hype, I mean it. It's actually terrifying. Unlike its predecessors, the bunker is a semi-open world experience with sandbox elements that gives the player more freedom in decision making and approaches to problematic situations. With the very basics covered, let's take a little closer but spoiler-free look at the game's features and mechanics. As mentioned before, you now have access to a weapon to actually defend yourself. But not only can you use your revolver for wounding and killing, but also for puzzle solving and environmental interaction. This may not sound like a lot of offensive and defensive ability at first glance, but this is already more the player is allowed to use than in previous Amnesia titles, where you pretty much were a rather hopeless, defenseless bag of meat. Now, I'm not so very easily scared by monsters in horror games, to be honest, because for me after a time they just get annoying and at times even obnoxious. But I have to say, while we haven't seen much of the lurking monster because the developers want to keep it a secret until the game is in our hands, which is really cool by the way, what we have seen so far looks absolutely terrifying. I mean, just take a look at this clip here. This very monster is, same as you, locked in this bunker and will react to your actions and decision making. It is, for example, attracted to darkness and gets alerted by noise, but it does greatly fear light, which makes different light sources your best friend in the game, preferably ones that don't constantly make noises like that. Other than in previous games, Amnesia the Bunker, contrary to what the title might suggest, is a semi-open world with sandbox elements. This time there are multiple available solutions to each task, puzzle or obstacle, and it's completely up to the player on how he chooses to approach each and every one of them. This also means that no playthrough will ever be exactly the same, adding more replayability than in previous titles. But that's not the only thing that changed. One of the most significant changes is the removal of the infamous Sanity mechanic. Instead, the game now uses the light and darkness mechanics to attract or scare off the monster. The central hub of the bunker contains a generator that you'll need to keep running by filling it with gas, or else the bunker will be plunged into eternal darkness, which, spoiler alert, isn't exactly good. From what we've seen so far, this central hub is also a safe place for the player, where he cannot get attacked. Finally, let's talk about the housekeeping. Amnesia the Bunker releases on May 23rd, 2023 for PC, Xbox Series X and S and PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5. The system requirements for PC are actually very reasonable, suggesting 4GB of RAM for minimum and 8GB for recommended requirements. Furthermore, an Nvidia GTX 460 for minimum and a GTX 970 for recommended requirements. So even if you're playing on a very weak system, you shouldn't have too much trouble decently running this game. With the latest PC releases in mind though, I emphasize on should. And with that, we pretty much come to the end of today's video. If you're as excited as I am for the bunker's release, I'll have quite a bit of content coming up for it soon. As always, thanks for watching and I'll see ya.